I'm way back here.
It's all good.
We always make it work.
You don't project the energy.
All right, so we got 50 minutes of airtime to cover. I'll give us a little countdown. You can kind of see up here so we know when to start wrapping everything up. Okay. And start closing out. Is it anything that you don't want us to talk about on air? Or kind of sensitive to? Any topics?
Relationship status.
Anything like that?
Open book.
You're open book. No cussing.
Okay.
Keeping no cussing on the air.
No cussing, chewing, or tapping.
There we go.
All right, we all good. I'll get that going in a second. You know, that's why I lifted and keep it moving. Let me see. Okay. Everybody ready? Everybody function.
Don't be nervous.
All right, going in.
Shake it off.
3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM in Oakland, online at www.kgbc96.9.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, Quasi Dreams, and your man Cat Fitness. We are back on air, y'all. We have an amazing episode for you. We have an amazing brother Denzel in the building. Can we make some noise for brother Denzel real quick?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Can I get y'all to do that every morning?
Oh, man. We'll come to the house and hype you up before your day. But brother Denzel has an amazing show uplifting the community. We're going to have Sister Kenya tell you a little bit about him real quick.
What's up, y'all? Okay, so we have Denzel Herrera-Davis.
That sounds exotic.
It is exotic. It is exotic.
You know.
I'm just making that up. I don't know if it's exotic.
There we go. Come on.
Exotic enough.
So Brother Denzel is a storyteller, life coach, and consultant living in Oakland, California. He is the founder of Create the Space, a concierge service for Black men seeking expansion through community and wellness. CTS leads Heart First to achieve its mission of bringing mental health and wellness to the forefront of awareness and access for people of color.
Wow.
Through Create the Space, Denzel has built a developmental wellness program for men of color that promotes healing, embraces healthy relationships, and challenges traditional notions of masculinity for men of color through shared vulnerability in community workshops and events. Wow. In his spare time, Denzel creates art for his soul, listens to reggae music, and unapologetically writes the lines. Thank you, Brother Denzel.
There we go.
Hey, only Kenya can give an introduction like that. Like wherever I go, I'm gonna have Kenya give me an introduction.
I
just want to say, as a sister in this community, I appreciate what you are doing because it is so needed. And we, as women or people who identify as women in this community, cannot complain, about some of the things that our men or our folks that identify as men are doing, thinking, feeling, expressing, whether it be negative or positive, when those men are also seeking healing. It's incredibly, incredibly important because there's always somebody saying something about men not feeling this or men not being able to communicate that, or men not being vulnerable or allowing themselves to be vulnerable, and that really impedes the communication between men and women. And so with the work that you're doing, I mean, the reach is insane. It's crazy. So thank you so much.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Denzel, let me ask the question. It's on everybody's mind right now. So, why men and why primarily men of color?
We should tell how we met Denzel.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to get into
that. We got to get that too.
We're going to get into that. It's magic.
How did he come to your attention is what I think.
All right. So which question first?
Oh, let's start with the why men of color, and then we'll have to say
all right. Well, I'll be the first to admit that it started selfish. Create the Space was a venture that was born and bred out of my own experience and my own desire for change. And that started with, I always talk about my throat chakra. At the time when I was doing the searching internally, I didn't know what a throat chakra or a blockage of my throat chakra was. But I recognized that I just had a deep desire to want to express myself, and then also not the desire to be expressed, but to also be heard. And heard in an unapologetic way. And so when we did that, when I honored that, To Me For You, which is a storytelling platform for Black men, men of color, to share their vulnerable truths in a communal space where we can come together as a community and heal and share in that vulnerability. And so that's where it came from. It was my own desire to express myself. And then through creating that, I realized that there were so many other people like me who wanted to just share their stories, to be heard and to be received as they were authentic. And we as men don't cultivate enough spaces for that. We don't nurture those environments enough. And so we're here to say that this does exist and we're doing it. And Black men are interested in their own self-healing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
So that's
That's so powerful.
counter to the narrative
Absolutely.
about Black men.
Absolutely.
That is counter. to
Who's
the
telling this story about Black men?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to really like put that out there, you know.
narrative. Well, I mean, I'm just gonna speak from a female.
Tell it.
I think that they do that because you and it's a snowball effect. So I don't think that it's necessarily real. I don't think that they really feel like that. I think that it's a way to protect themselves from that society is so damaging.
But you also have to understand, we've been healing in that kind of capacity at barbershops and different spaces where we feel comfortable.
That's right.
And we create those environments for ourselves. We might not express it in that way, but we have those spaces for ourselves, whether it's the barbershop, whether we're going to go hoop with our boys, wherever it may be, you know?
But that's a small faction of the community that's not spreading out to the rest of the community. So while that healing may be happening or starting, not everybody knows that that's happening there. Like, we know that that's happening there, but where is it leaving that space and getting out to the community and to the families and to the women and to the children where it needs to be felt?
Yeah. What you're talking about is intentionality.
Right.
Where is the intentionality?
Right.
Seeking out, and actually, me and my queen, we were talking about this last night, but I had an event where we were leading a discussion between men and women around dating, courting, and sex. And I was just questioning, why is it that men, Black men particularly, don't show up to these things in droves like Black women? And she was telling me, well, one, Black women just show up, which is I recognize that in so many spaces. Even if they're like, I do not mess with this girl, I will show up for her. I will support her. I will buy her product.
That's right.
Wow.
That's so true. That is so true.
And I don't think that sense of camaraderie and belonging exists in the male psyche, because we've been socialized against one another. We've been socialized to distance yourself from the crowd to go get whatever it is that you need to achieve, and by any means necessary, and then leave all of your feelings aside while you do it. And so, of course, there are a lot of conscious people out here working on themselves individually.
Sure.
But what we're doing at Creative Space is putting up a beacon and saying, hey, here's a flagship by which you can recognize other men doing the same thing and join the mission.
Yeah, man, that's so real. And I pray that people who are listening to this, especially so-called Black Americans, that we understand how deeply rooted these different factions within Black males are. Even going back to slavery, we were essentially made into children as men and had to raise children, right? Like that would drive any regular human being insane, and you have to compartmentalize your feelings in order to endure that. And naturally, we pass that down through generations. So what Create the Space is doing is truly revolutionary, because before we're men, we're human beings, and human beings are social, and we have a desire and a need to express. And I'd like you to touch on that, Denzel. Like, what have you seen through Create the Space? Like, what have you all been able to create? Like, how long has it been around? And what is the overall vision?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So Create the Space is relatively novel in many ways, but also in in this age. We are only 3 years old as an organization, which was born here in Oakland. So proud of that. A lot of culture, a lot of creativity that came into the spirit of the space, and as we continue to build. And the second part of your question.
So what I was asking, what is the vision,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And what have you seen, right? So like through these 3 years of experience,
Have you been seeing the change?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, have you been seeing the change that you're looking to make?
Absolutely. And so, I have the fortune and misfortune of building the plane and flying the plane and learning.
Right.
You're the pilot, you're the stewardess, you're the mechanic,
Being
everything.
a passenger on
That's what happens when you become an entrepreneur, man.
Yes, it is.
And so there's so many levels to it that I find myself really engaged on the one-on-one community building aspect. Like, I'm reminded by the people around me, like, you love community, you love being out there and connecting. But at the same time, I've been trained and socialized as an engineer and as a consultant and as a business mind that, you have to scale yourself and you have to do things with structure and order and it has to be repeatable and scalable and all of these things. And so I'm in these worlds where it's like sometimes I can't even appreciate how much magic is happening on the individual level for trying to proliferate the messages that we're trying to get out. Because one thing is, as individuals, we're all passionate individually about what we're doing. Right? You're passionate about this radio show. You're passionate about the finances of your organization. And I'm just being used to it. I know you're passionate because you read that message, and I was like, I feel that passion. And so everybody's passionate about their individual entities or organizations or efforts. But what Create the Space is particularly focused on is community as a service being the solution, meaning that we're not individuals. We're doing this together. The energy that we have, the communal, the shared vulnerability, the shared connectivity, the energy that we put in these spaces that resonates, amplified, and we can do well and better together.
And I know Kat and I can speak personally to the impact it's had on us because this radio show is a direct result of us meeting at one of your events.
But you know what's so funny? Now that I think back, I met Denzel at the radio station on Eric's show. At the old radio station. I just thought about that. I was like, where did I meet Denzel at? And I was like, I met him at the radio station once upon a time.
Wow. And so it's these moments because we've had individual touch points. You've shared your stories on the platform. We've been on the radio show together. And then a year plus later, we come back and we get to realize the expansion. We get to realize the growth. We get to realize what has taken place from that initial contact.
It's amazing all those things happen. I would like to ask you as what I consider a community leader, like what you're doing, what I witnessed going to that event. I had no idea what I was walking into. I just knew you invited me to come and share my story, right? It was just very nonchalant.
Hey, you a black man? You have
Right.
And it was just so like, why not, right? And like going there and seeing not just the storyteller, but also the audience and people being so ready to receive and so humble in that space. And like somebody was in the kitchen making food, and as a vegan, like that I could eat, right? It was a very welcoming, homely space. But I want to ask you, like, I'm sure that you know that with great reward comes great sacrifice. Right? Even when we look at the civil rights movement, for example, we didn't see, like, we're kind of just now in our generation seeing the real gains of that, right? Like being integrated into the schools and all these things, right? So as a leader in this space, what personal sacrifices have you had to make to see the rewards in these past 3 years?
Oh, man.
We just got deep, y'all. That's a loaded question.
Let's go.
Listen, well, I can show you my hairline. There's a sacrifice there. But when I moved out to the Bay, I was a consultant. I worked for one of the big four firms, and I was living with a quote-unquote, cush life. I was in the Midwest in Chicago, and I had a high rise on the lake, and it was great.
Shout out to Lake Michigan.
Yeah, right. Michigan. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. There's something that was there. I always talk about the people that come to create the space have a question. Many of them have a question they have yet not to formulate, but they're seeking an answer. And I was in that place, and so that brought me here to Oakland. And that in and of itself was a huge sacrifice because the cost of living was doubled. and I halved my salary. So it
Yeah.
was just like I had to really think about who I was in those moments. And for the last 2 years, it's been me finding myself, me trusting in the energy that is within me in the universe to help me, guide me.
Let's tap into that 1 second before we just glance over that, because I think that's a lot of times people don't get the essence of what speaks to them and how they can look past, like, you know, in my personal journey, I was in corporate America. I had a 6-figure income coming in, but a higher calling came to me, which meant more than any money that I was receiving at that time.
That's right.
Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes to people in many different forms, to your point. So many people come to me and say, yo, I got a message from Jesus, or I got a message from God. I tend to look for signs in the universe, and they come in many different forms. But I think at the root of it, what it is awareness of self.
But what made you follow that?
What
You know what I'm
made me
saying?
follow-
Because a lot of people get that message.
Yes.
We all get that message,
Yes.
but we tend to, get to it later, or I'll go have a drink, or I just, you kind of just brush it off. You accepted it. You listened to it. You followed it, and it got you to this point.
Well, okay, so I'm a very pragmatic person. I'm a Capricorn. I was a consultant. I was an engineer. So all of these things are like rooted in formulas and frameworks. And so I was trained to do this. And so when I found myself in this place where I was lost, I didn't know what to do. This calling was asking for something, and I didn't have an answer for it. And so I dropped everything to figure it out. But what I realized is I had the tools to do something. But what was my biggest challenge was I was afraid.
Wow.
There was fear at the root of it. If I asked myself enough questions, the bottom line was fear. If it was related to money, I can't do this. I can't build my own organization because I have no money. Well, is that actually true? Are there resources out here that can support me? Are there people out here that with resources that can support me? And so I had to get to the root of my narrative that I was telling myself, and they were all, for the majority of the part, false. And so much of what we do, decision making, is rooted in fear or the avoidance of turbulations or pain.
That's right. And I've said this before on this show, is that oftentimes we're raised that way. Understandably so. We're
programmed. Our community programs.
That's right. We're programmed. We're trained. Because when I told my mom and my aunt that I was considering leaving my job just so that I could continue to live, I saw people dropping dead at my job from stress. Some of them just falling on the floor in the office. I mean,
Where do you do that at?
I'm just gonna say that I worked here in Oakland. That's about all I'm gonna say on that for now. And so, but they looked at me horrified and said, "You better not leave that job. You better not leave that job." And then the installation of the where's your cushion? What's your parachute? What are you going to do instead? It's taken you all these years to get to this point where you have good, benefits and a good, salary and all of those other things. And then I'm sitting there like, I literally do not think I can live another even 10 years. Like at that time, I wasn't anywhere close to retirement. Now I'm retired. But at that time, there was it wasn't in sight. And so then you have to decide if you're going to continue to live like that, and if you're going to be willing to take those fearful steps and risks. And it's terrifying. And I can only speak for myself. It's terrifying. So I understand to a certain extent what you're talking about.
It's terrifying, and it's crippling, because those thoughts were instilled in us subconsciously, and so they pervade all of our decisions without us even knowing. And so some of them we're more conscious of, some of them we're confident in. If we have a degree, we move a little bit more confidently. But all of that stuff exists in us without all of the accreditation, right? And so one of the things that I particularly did was like, I'm going to retire my resume. Because if I'm not afraid of stepping out, out into this world and making my path for myself, then this resume is not going to dictate my path. So thereby it doesn't exist anymore.
What? I'm sorry, my mind just got blown.
Come on.
Yeah.
My mind just
Who's
got
ready to
blown.
retire that resume?
I have never
we gotta
heard
bury those
anybody say,
That's
I
deep.
retired
my resume.
Because,
Come on.
and let me, yes, and because it is a comfort zone, your resume. I look at my resume sometimes and I just want to stroke it. I just want to be like, you're here for me, just
Brother,
in case.
Just
right.
Brother Denzel, you need to put that on the t-shirt.
Okay, hashtag retire your resume.
Come on.
Because it is there as a cushion just in case. It's your safety plan.
Yeah.
I could not fathom, but now I can because you just said that. Retiring my resume because I'm fearful. Now I'm an entrepreneur, but it's there if I need it.
Right.
But it only allows you to grow, like Brother Denzel was saying. It gives you a ceiling of what you're capable of doing because you're focused on, okay, I got 1 foot in, I got
That's
1
right.
foot out.
Oh
You know what I'm saying? What happens when you put 2 feet in and you're saying, no, this is my lane and I have to give it 100%? What does that look like?
That might have changed so many lives just now because I think it changed mine because that is a trip.
Yeah, and it's really powerful. Like we're barely 20 minutes into the show. Y'all already receiving some amazing nuggets. So if you want more, tap in with us every Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on KGPC 96.9. That's locally here in the Bay Area. You can also catch us online anywhere in the world at KGPC96.9.org. And also follow us online. Tap in with us at ach.show. That's at ach.show on Instagram. We bring it to you.
I have a question. Since we never fully got back to how you guys met, and how you even heard about Brother Denzel and his organization. How did that happen?
Wow. You want to go first, Kat?
Well, I met him first.
Okay.
There we go.
So Eric had a show. I forget what was Eric's show's name at the radio station.
Media.
That boy Media. So he had a show that he invited me on, and I was one of the guest speakers, and Denzel was one of the guest speakers. And then after the show, we were kind of all networking, talking, chopping it up, exchanging information. And me and Brother Denzel exchanged information. And later on, he told me about his podcast and invited me out. And I was like, yeah, I'm more than happy to come support another brother build his brand. So yeah, I came out, and then that's how I met Brother Clay.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking I was just like this before I met my wife. I was very active, a lot more active in the community, like direct hand-to-hand type interactions. And I was probably just invited to one of your shows. Because I didn't know you personally. I remember I met you at the show at the first creative space I went to. That was at what was the name of that thing?
Yeah, it was at Spirit House Gallery.
Spirit House Gallery.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful Spirit House.
That was an incredible night, by the way.
Wow.
I met people, about 4 people there that I'm still connected to, including this one lady I met who was from Canada. She came out. I'm sure you remember that. She came out from Canada, and she was just invited to this show, and I'm like, wow, this is a magical freaking space. And then you invited me to come and speak at the following show. This was, I believe, when COVID first started? Right before COVID. Yeah. Yeah. That was.
But if you never created that space, then me and Kwesi would have never met, and all the things that came from it. You ever trip off that kind of stuff? Like that moment that you created for us to meet has created everything that's gotten us to this moment right here.
Yeah. So I wish people in this room could just feel this energy. First of all, y'all need to come on this radio show because the love that you're getting here. So I just wanted to say that.
Can I ask a question? What are the events like? As somebody that's never been to one, or what exactly is happening at these events?
Yeah. Well, you definitely have 2 participants, so they can share their perspectives. But I will give you the overview. So to me, for you, is a storytelling platform where we invite, particularly focus on Black men, but the stage is open to men of color to share their vulnerable We challenge them to own it, feel it, whatever they do. And the only rules are that you can have never performed it, written it, talked about it, because we want you to share in your true vulnerability in the moment with us, wherever your mind takes you. And so we seek out men from the community. Every month or every other month, we host a show and we feature three different men, and then we have a membership that supplants that. So the men that are go deeper with us are part of a membership group, and we have programs that support them, like Black Men's Yoga. We have a book club. We have a network of therapists and psychologists and life coaches that support. And so we provide all of these services to the community within the community that we serve, and then through our organization, because we've been doing the work that we've been doing, we also get opportunities to provide agency for jobs, because they recognize that we have talent, we have Black men that are doing the work in the community, and they want to source opportunities with our talent to give us opportunities to work. And so all of this is becoming what we're calling a community as a service for Black people by Black people.
Now, are you doing particular types of outreach in order to reach people so that they can participate?
Absolutely. So we do activations. We are still a small startup, but we do activations in the community. So, for example, we have actually, Quincy, you came out to we do free yoga in the park.
Oh yeah.
And so we try to build community that way and spread the healing through movement.
I'm a yoga teacher.
So we'll have to link up for sure. But we are doing happy hours and get-togethers, and all of this is in the spirit of networking, because to Kat's point, the magic happens when we connect. Right? Yeah. And with the spirit of intention, everything is possible. Yeah. Right. And so these folks, we're now coming back together a year later. Yeah. So many other relationships and business opportunities and partnerships have developed because we've been intentional about creating this space.
So many. And I want to speak to that question as well. Like, what are these experiences like? And it reminded me, because how do I summarize this? So long story short, I traveled to Ghana. Most people should know that I lived for a year in Ghana, West Africa. Life-changing experience is actually the story I shared to create the space. Mm-hmm. But what I saw there was a different kind of masculinity, right? One that really stretched my vision to understand it's okay for men to hug each other. It's okay for men to hold hands. It's okay for men to say, I love you to each other without feeling shame. I had not experienced that in my 20 plus years of being a so-called Black male in America. And what that told me and taught me is that we are human first before we are men. And something really weird happens to us in America that made us forget that. But what I saw create the space is there's a true and natural and human desire for that connection amongst men, particularly Black men. There is a true desire for that connection that goes beyond what we're taught and told is manly, right? And it's amazing, like the universe speaks to us, because on the way here, I was listening to the radio and Ain't Too Proud to Beg by The Temptation. I know you want to leave me, right? In that song, he has a line where he says, I heard a crying man is half a man.
That's right.
I heard a crying man is half a man. And that's like the thesis of the song, right? I've been taught and told to be this kind of man, but I love you so much, I'm not too proud to beg for you to come back to me. That's powerful. And that's what Create the Space is, right? Giving us an opportunity to express ourselves without shame. It's like, oh my goodness, that's revolution.
What I want to say about that, thank you so much, Quincy, for sharing that, because that really, I know, okay? I'm
writing it right now.
I want to know more about that. But I think, too, that we have to maybe consider acknowledging the fact that where we originally came from, there was more physical affection and lack of fear when it comes to connection and, with our families and with each other. And I think that doesn't just go for men who identify as African American or Black, but also men who identify as Hispanic or, those types of things. And I think that something happens when our people come to this country, or no matter how many generations ago, or no matter how they came to this country, there is a encouragement of our people to disconnect from each other, right? And so then the struggle is the shame that Kwesi was just talking about, referring to where does that even come from? Like, why is that there? And it's continues to be encouraged by the society that we currently live in to not connect. And you do see some cultures that do not buy into that
For sure.
in this country. And so what I feel like is that it's a coming back to for us,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I encourage everybody that's listening to this, and Denzel, I'd like you to speak to this as well, but I encourage everybody who's listening to really know your history and understand there's been a very intentional effort for us to be pitted against each other and separated. Even when you look at some of the most thriving Black, especially, and I'm sure this happened to brown and Asian people as well, when you look at the thriving people of color communities, cities would literally build highways in the middle of the community. This happened all over America in the 60s and 70s. It happened out here in West Oakland.
Yep.
Built a highway or a BART station or some kind of transportation literally through the community, dividing it and separating it, right? There's been a very intentional effort beyond that to separate us and pit us against each other going back centuries. And all of these are tools of he who shall not be named.
I was going to say, one of the things that I really noticed when I came to create the space was, first of all, I only knew Denzel there, and it felt like family. Like, it was a very open, welcoming environment. Everybody, everybody's talking. It was almost like a family gathering, and you were having a barbecue, and you just happened to be recording a show. Yeah, with strangers, but we all felt like family in that space. And how you created that, and it was so seamless. Like, that's what I really took away that day. I was like, this is like extended family right here. Like, I'm feeling I can be as vulnerable as I want to be. I shared things that I don't think I've even shared with family members that day in that space, and felt very comfortable and not judged at all. And for somebody to be able to do that with a room full of strangers, that's truly powerful, brother. Like, that really is.
Thank you. And that's, we talk about the title of the show is shared vulnerability, power, shared vulnerability. And I recognize that so much of what we do in life is about how we project ourselves and how we reflect ourselves. And so we're always posturing. And oftentimes we miss out on so many opportunities because we're posturing, or we're self-rejecting, or we're calculating something in our head, and we're lacking the intimacy in the moment to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And so when we started creating the space, the intention was through shared vulnerability. And so you lead with them. And in order to create that environment, you have to be that environment.
Wow. That you said something really powerful, and it probably went right over people's heads. But I want y'all to tap into the language that he's using right now, right? When he said lacking the intimacy to be vulnerable, lacking the intimacy, and that we can go even deeper than that, looking at how men specifically are engineered to view intimacy as only sex. Mm-hmm. Right? If that, if that, right? You listen to any rap song, we pulling hair and throwing her to the ground and essentially assaulting her. And that's how we're taught to have sex with a woman, right? But when we talk about shared intimacy between men, a lot of men, oh, that's gay. Mm-hmm. I don't do that. I ain't about that. I'm real. Look how I sack my pants. I'm real, right? But not to shame anybody. I just encourage you all to really open your minds and also tap in with Denzel. Like, a lot of people, especially a lot of Black men, don't even know where to start. And I understand. A lot of men did not even have other real men in their lives teaching them how to be men. You had men who had the mindset of a boy teaching you how to be what they thought was a man. But that's not man. That's not masculine. That is not godly. And I encourage you, if you don't know where to start, tap in with Denzel. Like, honestly speaking, how can people get in touch with, even from a distance, if they're like, this sounds like too much for me, but I still want to see what's going on? How can they tap in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we make this extremely easy for people because we want to uplift the voices of the storytellers and the work that we're doing. And so we share all of our work for free. Right now, our programs in the park are for free. We have a YouTube channel. You can find Create the Space on YouTube. We have an Instagram where we share our voices and our stories of our men and the work that we're doing, all in an effort to rehumanize them. And that starts with re-imaging or reimagining so much of it, to your point, is the context that we're in westernizing. And I have an example of what you were talking about before, but when I go back to Jamaica, I'm reminded of that same very thing because they walk around, and it's a very patriarchal place, so I won't ignore that. But as a man, there is that benefit of being able to walk around and hear when people walk, if you don't greet them, then it's almost a sign of disrespect. Their greetings are blessings, manners, respect, king. It doesn't even matter if you're a stranger, they know you, your family. You hear this over 100 times walking throughout your day. Wow. And at the end of the day, at the very least, you've been uplifted by your community over and over and over, just because you're one of them. It doesn't matter who you are. And we lack that here in America. We do.
Yes.
Oftentimes, even between black men and black women, sometimes as a man, I feel like I intimidate women, or there's some kind of divide there because they look down when I say, hey, or I look at them, you know. And so I try to be reflective about my presence. But I do generally recognize that circumstance and the environment we're in, if you put a fish in a poisonous fish tank, eventually.
So true.
And it's so interesting that you brought that point up, that we can be walking down our own street in our own community and not even acknowledge each other.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
No
eye contact, like give them a nice little head nod, smile kind of thing, and it's like, okay, yeah. What just happened there?
It has been
a
fostering of fear and distrust, etc. And so I totally understand what you're saying, Denzel, because I'm one of those women that I always look black men in the eye, and I always respond, and I'm always smiling at them, because I think to myself, how many times, especially you speak to me, I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna talk to you. Like, why? Wait, you didn't just ask me for a date. You just said hello. So why am I gonna get all, snooty about it? You just trying to say hello. And when I was in the Bahamas, for the one and only time I was ever in the Bahamas was when I was either 14 or 15. And I remember some guys passed by in a car, and they greeted us, me and my friend, and I just rolled my eyes like, I'm not gonna talk to you. And they came back, honey. They came back around, and they taught my 15-year-old butt a lesson, because that man said, do not come here and be like that. Ooh. He looked right at me, and he was like, if you gonna come to this island, you gonna talk.
You're gonna
respect. Come on. That's right. And that changed my entire life from 15 forward. I thought to myself, what America has done a number on me. Yes.
And that's real. And I know we have a few minutes left now. I'd like to go a little bit deeper into, your origin story. So you saying, so you're from Jamaica?
So my father's Jamaican. I was born in Tampa, Florida, but I would spend the summers there as a child. And my mother's Colombian, so she was born in Barranquilla, but was raised in a small island called San Andres. Wow. And so a lot of Caribbean origins. Yeah. And so you were talking about knowing where you come from and epidemiology and all of this, and it's so important because even now I'm at the age where I'm doing a lot of self-discovery, and so much of my work has been focused on me and internal, but I have a whole slew of family that exists that I haven't even tapped in to understand where I come from and how I got even got here, and what I can tap into to go forward. But so half Colombian, half Jamaican. Both of my parents were immigrants, so I grew up not knowing up from down in this world because I had so many different identity crises. I grew up thinking that I was, my mother and my father were black. Yeah. And it wasn't until I was actually a sophomore in college that somebody was like, nah, you are biracial.
Whatever that means.
Right.
Let me identify you, put you in a box.
And then I started identifying, so I'm biracial. So what does that mean? All right. So then I have to go figure out what half of this race looks like and half of that race looks like. And so then I had to figure out that I wasn't Colombian enough. because I was
Sure.
dark skinned and I didn't speak
Yeah.
as much Spanish and blah blah blah. And there's a whole caste system there. So
Yeah.
even within my own family, I was you know, people ask me at my family's wedding, like, who are you? Why are you here? Kind of thing.
Serving.
Right.
And then on the other side, it's like, oh, well, you're not island. You're not a Jamaican. You're not Jamaican. You're too proper. You're you know. And so then trying to be black in America is just like, once I finally thought I got here, it was like, you're not.
Right.
You're an island. You don't get it. You're not. And so we it's like, okay, talking about isolation. I talk about a lot of the West Indians, first generation children. They talk about their flag. What separates us is we have our own cultural identity.
Yeah.
And we're not letting that be stripped away from us.
Yeah. As you should. As you should. It should be in cohesion, right? And for anybody who's not watching this on IG Live, like Denzel looks like my brother. You know, like
I do. I look at places every like
black. Like, and I had no idea. And that just goes to show how expansive our family is, how expansive the diaspora is. And I really, again, like I encourage, especially the men who are listening to this, to understand there's so much more than your city, so much more than your block, so much more than your state, so much more than your immediate nuclear family. There's an entire world of us out there with different experiences, with different cultures, with different foods, but we all come from the same seed. And I want you to really stretch your vision to understand if that is also my family, I can also choose to be that or incorporate aspects of it into my personality. Just free your mind and the rest will follow.
And also more than is put on us by where we live, the fact that we live here, because the stereotypes are so real.
I
And
do like some chicken.
right.
Everybody likes chicken.
Well,
Actually-
you don't eat chicken.
Yeah,
do
I
you?
like chicken. I
Okay.
just choose not to eat it.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I was
Yeah, I
gonna
know.
say-
Me and
Uh-oh.
Kat
Black
don't
meat
eat
is
chicken.
gonna go.
No, no,
I'm
I-
about to get
I-
cancer.
but I,
we don't eat chicken.
but I've eaten some chicken.
I have two
I'm
eaten chicken.
proudly dating a black woman, and she eats meat, but she doesn't eat chicken. I'd be so perplexed.
Yeah, I don't eat chicken. I will occasionally eat meat, but I don't
Wow.
eat chicken at all. I don't eat chicken at all. I promised a chicken friend that I would never eat chicken again. And,
Okay, all right. So that's two women in my life now.
Right.
So I must learn.
Right.
Building the army.
There's something there.
There
I'm
is.
gonna do some learning.
there is any more than I would eat a dog.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say is that stereotype, what Kwesi was just saying, speaks to again the expansiveness of what the experience can be, but isn't necessarily, because we live what we know. We're products of our environment. We're products of the imagery that we get in our environment. Particularly these days with social media, you can't do anything. You've got the all of the killings and the this and the, all kinds of stuff. And we think, particularly Black men, will think as they grow up, well, this is who I am, or this is who I'm expected to be, or this is who I cannot escape being because of my environment and because of what I'm being taught. And so it is so important, the work that you're doing, exactly as Kwesi was describing it, is opening our minds as a community and being a conduit and an educational aspect for young Black men and older Black men to know that there are options to what we've been fed in our society of who they can be and who they're expected to be.
I know we only got a couple minutes left on the show, and I really want to get this question answered. And it changes the tempo. How do y'all come up with the topics? Because I remember the day that me and Brother Kwesi came in, the topic to open up our conversation was milk and cookies. Like, what? And it was so great. It was so crazy because milk and cookies, I'm like, what milk and cookies? Where am I going to go with this? Right? But milk and cookies, well, however you came up with it, had me dive in. It started off, I got into my childhood and worked my way all the way back into the present moment off of that. And that was so amazing. So if you can share with our viewers, how do you come up with the material to allow the people that come on the show to open up and be able to be as vulnerable as they are?
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate
Milk and
you
cookies.
for framing that question for me, because so many people look at me and see the work that I do as random, and I understand. But there's actually a lot of psychology and science behind, to me, for you as a program, because it's not just a storytelling platform, but the way we go about it is so we provide boundaries so that people have to enter that space of the unknown or the uncertain.
Yeah.
Right. And so, when are you most? When do people get to know you most? It's in those moments where you're being the most intimate, whether you're doing something embarrassing or you're having a passionate conversation or whatever the case may be. You're being vulnerable. That's when people have the opportunity to truly feel and get to know you. Yeah. And so we're creating an environment where that vulnerability becomes drawn out in here. And then they're coming up on stage. So they're walking up to the stage. They have to take a step up to the stage. They have to sit on the stage. They have to grab the mic. And then they have to own their voice. Mm-hmm. And not only own their voice, but do it for the first time in front of a room full of strangers, where many people would think this is anxiety inducing, and it is. But once you get through that, there's a lot of understanding on the other side. And so similarly with our topics, they sound super random, but we specifically pick references that are rooted in either pop culture or some sort of socialization that one person can have their own derived association with, and another can totally have their own. But make that such that the landscape is not negative. Yeah. Right. And so to Chad's point, I talked about milk and cookies from a completely different perspective than he did, because he hit it from his vegan perspective. And I remember your story so vividly, talking about how he would go to those milk and cookies when he was at his worst, and how that became the source of strength when he had to let that go and recognize that these milk and cookies were harmful to himself in different ways. Right. And so you can never plan something like that. Yep. And the intent is not to do it. It's to be on the journey with this brother as he tells and explores himself.
Wow.
That is deep. And so it seems so simple, but it is so deep,
Yeah. And that's a perfect note to end on, at least for this episode. I can already tell we're gonna have to bring you back.
We really are.
Really are. Brother Denzel.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. And somebody told me always leave them wanting more.
You did that very well. But last but not least, where can the people find you? Give us your social.
I will be better about this. So you can find our website, www.cr8thespace.com. Instagram, create_the_space. And on YouTube, cr8thespace.com. Or excuse me, cr8 the space. And that is where you'll see a lot of our videos, our content, where you can sign up for membership. You can explore what we do, and just see some of our stories.
Yes. And when is your next show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Our next show is September 16th. It's free at the Infirmary Park here in Oakland. So please come on out.
The day after my birthday.
Hey, we might have to come and have you on the show, man. Hey. So come on out. And to your point, this is a community event. So it's focused on Black and brown men. But the idea is that we share through and we heal through vulnerability, and we can't do that without our counterparts, the women who brought us into this world. So we're doing this work for ourselves, so ultimately we can be better for one another, for our children, our brothers, and our families, our wives, and children, and the women around us.
Come on.
That's amazing, brother. Well,
that's what I'm talking about.
Coming through, Denzel. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. You've been phenomenal. Thank you for sharing your heart and your story, your vulnerability. We're excited to come and support the next show.
Listen, thank you so much. This energy has been great. Y'all have no idea how I woke up this morning, but I'm going home on a whole nother vibration.
Come on, that's what's up.
Anything can happen. Come through, y'all. Come through. But
so, Miss Kenya, can you let them know where they can find you on social media?
Yes, you can find me at Ruby Envy on Instagram, at Ruby Envy on Twitter, at Ruby Envy on Facebook, and Kenya E. Asa on LinkedIn. about you, Brother Kwesi?
Yes. For all things finance, all things life insurance, all things education, tap in with me on my personal page at Kwesi, KWESI.dream. Also follow our business page at Alignment Agency. We getting things popping for real and all those things. So tap in. Brother Cat.
What's up, everybody? You can find your man Cat at Cat Fitness 3 on IG, Cat Fitness on Facebook, and www.catfitnesswellnesscenter.com. If you're looking to detox, lose weight, or just need a coach to get you back on track, make sure you tap in with me. You can always tune in to our show on YouTube at Heal the Hood. This broadcast will be brought to you at KGPC 96.9 FM in Oakland and online at www.kgbc96.9.org. So if you're looking to listen to previously recorded episodes, make sure you go back in and tap into other episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Anything can happen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Make sure for those out there, make sure you hit the subscribe
Every
button.
time when you talk, you go like this. And my ears were like,
Subscribe, like, share. You get the behind the scenes. You get the behind the scenes on YouTube.
Kwesi gonna kill my ears with that thing.
A little bit of behind the scenes, y'all. In the studio. Got done another amazing episode. Brother Denzel. Create the space, y'all.
Energy is alive, y'all.
That was fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Come on, it's all
By the
love.
way, like we're looking for other people, so it looks like we're.
Hold on, we got a
towards-
request.
Oh,
We got a request. Let's see who the request
Did
is.
you want?
Yeah, to hop on the live real
Oh,
quick.
shoot.
Let's see. We got a request.
shoot.
Let's see. Oh, do I gotta hit
No?
something else? Oh, center. What was this?
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know if they.
I don't know. I gotta
It's
get
center
on this
request?
live thing. I gotta get this live
Okay.
thing going.
I seen a request. Anybody want to request I hop on to talk to Brother Denzel or any of us real quick? Go ahead and hit that request button.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will see y'all later.
See y'all next Thursday.
Peace.
But I was saying we're looking for other people we can help. Bring into the studio, give them some exposure, have a great conversation. Is there anybody? I'm thinking of Rondi, of course. But is there anybody else that you have?
Yeah. At any particular like spaces that you want to explore? Or?
I feel like honestly, we really like Black entrepreneurs. So I mean, we do everything. Right? People of color. I said people of color entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I got
EOCs, entrepreneurs of color.
Entrepreneurs.
EOC. Okay, yeah, I got some people in mind. I can definitely I can reach out to them.